We named this event Flutter Forward because we want to show where we're going. Let's talk about Flutter today, both the latest releases and the tools and the ecosystem that power them. Anda, why don't you come and tell us about them?
Thank you, Tim. Now, are you ready to hit Flutter upgrade? All right. So I'm pleased to announce the availability of Flutter 3.7 and Dart 2.19, our latest stable releases. I'm going to talk about a few things that examples of what's new in Flutter. So we've enhanced Material 3 support, as you've heard already. And this includes migration of widgets such as radio buttons, sliders, and badges to Material 3. We have adaptive layouts, which enables your app's UI to automatically scale to look great on various screen sizes. We've got menu bars and cascading context menus, which are fully customizable to your app's needs. We've made Impeller, which is the graphics rendering engine that we've been building, available now as a preview for you to use in iOS versions of your app.
And to do just that, I am happy to announce Dart 3 Alpha. This is the first release, the first preview of our next major release. And I have 3 things I would like to show you today. We have new language features. We have the completion of our multi-year journey towards sound and all safety. Oh, and we've expanded on our already comprehensive platform support. Would you like to hear all the details? Yes. All right. I will start with records and patterns. These are large new language features focused on making the Dart language more expressive and better suited for working with structured data. Let's talk about null safety. Sometimes, to make progress in a product, it is insufficient to simply add features. Sometimes you have to be willing and go back and revisit your earlier assumptions about existing features. The Dart team has been on such a journey for the past 7 years to rework the Dart type system. Sound null safety is not just about catching null errors. There is more. Do you care about performance? All right, I thought so. Or hope for it. Sound null safety allows our compilers to trust the types and produce smaller and faster code. Here's an example. This is a small function that takes an argument and returns a result. When this code compiled to machine code with Dart 1, our compiler produced 26 machine code instructions to have all the needed runtime checking in place. With sound null safety in Dart 2, we could reduce this down to 10 instructions. And in Dart 3, with sound null safety everywhere, we're now down to 3 instructions. And this was just a simple function call. Imagine a large real-world program with thousands of lines of Dart code. It adds up to a huge change.
Start with WebAssembly, which Michael mentioned earlier on. So I'm going to walk over, and this is my favorite bit. I get to do a demo myself. In fact, if I go into the dev tools and I make this a little bit bigger, you can see that what we've got here is, instead of the usual sort of main.dart.js, which is normally the big thing that contains everything, we've got main.dart.wasm. And this is the compiled version of this code to WebAssembly. Something that we've been working on here enables you to take Dart and Flutter and compile it and put it in a div as a web component, so it can integrate deeply with the rest of the platform. So I'm going to show you this as well. I'm just going to show you in DevTools. You can see here what we've got. This is just regular HTML page that we've got here. You can see all these buttons here. They're all actually just HTML buttons on the left-hand side here. And what I've got here is this single div here, which is the div target for the Flutter. And that's where the Flutter component is going to be loaded. So I'm going to get rid of the DevTools for a moment. And this is the div here. And you can see that through a bit of JavaScript code, we've filled that with the Flutter counter application. So now you can see that I can do the usual things. This is a traditional Flutter counter app. But look, on the left-hand side, What you're seeing here, this is JavaScript. This is a JavaScript text box, and you see that as I continue to increment the button on the Flutter side, that state can be pushed across to the JavaScript side. Better still, I can go the other way as well, so I can hit the increment button on the JavaScript side and affect the state in Flutter. And because what you're looking at here is just a regular HTML div, you can do other things with it. You can, for example, apply CSS. So I could add a shadow effect. That's kind of nice. Or I could resize it in real time. Or I could even switch it into a device mode and skew it. Check that out. But it doesn't just go there, because I can also flip it across. I can go into something like a text field. And these are things that are often quite difficult to implement. But even in the text field mode, if I switch again back into that device mode, you can see that the text field still works. I can do selection with skews. That's all pretty good. Let's switch it up again a little bit more. Let's make it back into landscape mode. And then let's add a spin. Oh, check that out. OK, but this is live, right? So I can still go backwards and forwards here. And I can select text, and I can go. It's quite challenging when I'm doing it in reverse. I can then type into it, and it is still working. This is just like a text field in CSS with CSS effects. How about... How about for a bit more fun, I'll just add a CSS mirror effect. So now what you're seeing here is the CSS reflecting of the Dart code here. So again, I can continue to make these changes, and you can see it reflected at the bottom. What do you think? So we think this is going to really change how people use Flutter, because now any web app can use a Flutter to add interactive graphics, to do the kinds of things with Canvas that you might want to be doing. And you're just looking for a good web framework to do rich Canvas work. So that's element embedding. But now, with the work that we're doing here, again, very experimental, very unstable, we're bringing it to the web. So if I can go back to my demo machine, this is a pixel-shaded demo that Eric Gomez wrote. And what you see here is just a very simple example of pixel shaders at work. There's our famous Dash, and with this slider, I can change how pixelated she is. And this is exactly the same code that Eric wrote and demonstrated for mobile, but we've just taken it and transformed it, or just taken it and compiled it for the web. And now I can do all these kind of really crazy cool effects, like adding this kind of pointillism sort of view. And you can see that this is just what goes on as it's loading different images and applying these pixel shaders. So again, the power available with Flutter to do these high-end graphics effects is now available on the web. So again, I want to make very clear, all these things that I'm showing you here, they're super early. We're not committing when we'll ship them. This is just a proof of concept, but they give you an idea of where we're going and where we're taking the web.
For the past year, we've continued to add lots of exciting new features. We've been improving text input. We've been adding support for foldable devices and variable refresh rate. We've been simplifying release processes, enhancing our developer tooling, and improving performance. Just to name a few. All right, let's consider a news app. I think we can all agree that more and more people are reading news on their phone. But for developers, that means building navigation search, authentication, ad integrations, profiles and subscriptions, notifications. It's a lot of work. So to help with this, we're excited to announce that the first version of Flutter's new toolkit is now available for everyone, to have best practices for things like performance, accessibility, design. And that's one of the reasons why we partnered with the team at G-Skinner to create Wondrous. Wondrous is a Flutter reference app that brings the wonders of the world to life on your device. And back in August, we launched Wondrous. Since then, we've had over 25,000 installs. So I hope everyone here has it installed. Now, Wondrous is a really great example of creating your own custom designs with lots of beautiful graphics and really unique animations. So I can drop a new app into view and see it resize. And it still looks really natural on this new format. Now let me add another one, and we'll see it resize again. Looking great. I'm going to get rid of this one down here and make it even narrower. And still, we see that it looks beautiful, even on this really narrow screen that's left with. So that's Wondrous. You can install it and see all the source code at wondrous.app. All right, so, woo! Okay, so switching gears a little, let's move on from developer experience and focus on interoperability. So when I think of what makes a mobile app different from something on the web, I think of things like notifications, payments, accessing a user's location, or looking at their photos. There are literally thousands of APIs, but the tricky part is you have to worry about 2 different platforms, and each is written in a different language. Now let's move on to our last theme for mobile, which is graphics performance. So like Tim mentioned before, we recently started supporting custom fragment shaders with Flutter. And it's been really fun scrolling through Twitter and seeing all the funny things that people are creating. We have glowy text, we're making it snow, we have some waves going on, really cool stuff. But motion graphics like these only work when you have great app performance to make it a smooth experience. So one feature that we're super proud of is Impeller, which, like we mentioned before, is a major rewrite of our graphics engine. So I have this fun little kaleidoscope app, and it has some animations that were created by clipping a whole bunch of different SVGs. So on the left-hand side, I have my build that's using Skia, which is our current default renderer. And as we're scrolling down the page, we can see that it struggles a little bit. It's only rendering at about 7 to 10 frames per second. But on the right-hand side is our build using Impeller, which looks really smooth. It's rendering at like 60 frames per second. Who wants to see me make a 3D dash painted entirely in Flutter? All right. And she's 3D. So she's just in this cool little light box, and we can turn her around and see how she's looking. Dash looks pretty nice, but 3D gets really cool when we can add in animations. So I'm going to go ahead and add in an animation. These are just saved in my file already, so I just call them by their name, which in this case is walk. I'll save, and again, hot reload, and we can see her walking around. Ooh, cool. But the thing is that we were just talking about performance, so I think we need to turn it up a notch, right? Instead of just showing a single dash, I think we want to show a whole bunch of dash. We'll hot reload, and now we have a whole bunch of dashes. It's actually a cube of dashes, 7 by 7 cube to be exact, so that's 343 dashes. Walking around, so that means more than 10,000 individual joints that are being evaluated at every frame with hot reload. Thank you, Impeller. Okay, so I just have one last thing to show you. I'm switching over to my new phone, and this is just an idea of the types of experiences that you can build with Flutter. Right, so everything here is painted with Flutter. We have these coins, we have these trees, we have a Flutter logo. It's awesome. And that's looking forward on Flutter for mobile. Flutter for 3D coming soon. I hope you are as excited as we are.
Oh my heart is full. There is so much amazing things going on here, and I want to pay particular credit to the team who've produced so many amazing demos to help us out. So let's give them one big round of applause also. As you said, these are all experimental. This is not intended to represent stuff that you can all play with right now. Some of these demos are available. Some of them will come soon. But the key point here is that they represent the direction we're going. So as we talk a little bit about the kinds of things that we're working on, I want to just summarize the 4 themes that we talked about earlier on. We talked about really high performance graphics. We talked about how we're working on expanding Flutter to different directions. We've talked about new architectures that we're supporting. We've talked about how we integrate seamlessly between web and mobile. And we've talked about our focus on the developer experience. And so this slide kind of summarizes all of the different things that we've been working on.